Hey, so today I am going to prep some freezer meals to have for when Josh and I are in the hospital. For my mom and his mom are going to be taking turns, most likely looking after the boys at home. So I just wanted to make some pasta meals that are in the freezer for them to just be able to pull out and cook easily at dinner time for however long we're there. So, hi Joseph. He's in his cute onesie. He's just so cute. But anyway, so I'm just gonna make some lasagna, and I figured, like, I've personally never made lasagna to freeze. I always buy the frozen lasagna. So I got all the ingredients at the grocery store, and I figured why not just throw a video together to show you how potentially simple or not simple this is going to be. So normally I would buy like fresh ground beef and stuff like that. When I went grocery shopping, my grocery store was actually out of fresh ground beef. So I bought the prepackaged ground beef. Still not bad. And then normally I would make my own sauce. But again, being this close to pregnancy, I'm getting a little lazy, so I got the prepackaged sauce, and I'm pretty sure it's seasoned. So I am gonna add a few spices and stuff to the ground beef, and then just make my lasagna pretty basic and simple. I'm just gonna add the sauce with the ground beef, put some noodles in there. I do have ricotta in the fridge. Normally I would just chop up some spinach and mix it all together, but we're just going basic and simple this time. I just want to throw some meals together so that they have things to eat while we're not home. So I might do maybe another video in the future of my fancy lasagna I make, but not this time. We're just going easy and simple. So I am probably going to do two different kinds of pasta bakes. I'm going to do a lasagna, and then I was thinking about doing a penne pasta bake. Basically just mixing the penne with the sauce, putting some cheese on, freezing it. I have these aluminum dishes here that say they're for lasagna, but I have 3 of them. So my plan is just to either do 2 lasagnas with a penne bake or 2 penne bakes with a lasagna. That's my penne. And then just have 3 of them frozen. So the dishes are big enough that it's gonna do everybody for dinner and probably lunch the next day. My kids are virtual schooling right now, so they're at home all the time anyway, so we have to cook something for lunch, so it wouldn't be a problem to have either lasagna 2 days in a row or lasagna like for dinner 2 days in a row, or for dinner and lunch the next day. Not a big deal, just to have something in the freezer, so that way even if some of them are left over for when Josh and I get home, life's going to be a little hectic at first for a little bit, so it'll be nice to have some freezer meals to be able to just grab and go. So that is my thought. And then one of the other things too, while the ground beef is cooking, I'm going to cook the noodles. I'll cook the lasagna noodles first. I didn't get like the pre-baked or whatever noodles. I just have regular lasagna noodles. So I'm going to like parboil them so they're kind of al dente. So I think that's about 7 minutes of boiling. Let them cool off, and that way they're not hard when obviously they're being cooked. And then again with the pasta noodles, I will parboil them for 5-7 minutes. And then I did, like I said, I've never made freezer meals before, so I did Google it, and it does say to let everything cool down before you throw it in the freezer, because if it is still warm and going in the freezer, it'll create icicles and stuff like that throughout your dish, and then when you're reheating it to eat, it kind of goes mushy. So that's not going to be all that fun. So I'm going to make sure that everything's cooled down before I assemble it all and before I freeze it. So that's why I'm just going to cook the noodles, get the meat cooked, and the pasta sauce all mixed together, and then I'll just let it cool down for a good couple hours and then put everything together. All right, so now that the ground beef is done, I'm gonna strain it just to get all of the extra grease out, and then I'm gonna throw the rest of this in, see how far that goes. If I need to open another one and put more in, I do want it to be pretty saucy. So if I need to open another one and put more in, not a big deal, because then I can just throw it in the freezer for later. And then normally when I'm making pasta sauce, I would chop up like onions, peppers, mushrooms. I don't know how well that's gonna freeze, and I don't really want to experiment when someone else is cooking it. So I will try that another day. For now, I just bought pasta sauce that has mushrooms in it. So that way there's at least something in it. And it's not just sauce with ground beef, so. So I took the lasagna noodles out and measured how many went across here, and there was 4. I don't really know how many layers of lasagna I'm going to do, so I put 12 in the pot just to be safe for like 3 layers. I think I'm only going to do 1 lasagna, and then I'll do 2 pasta bakes, because you can do a lot more with pasta if somebody wants to like chop up peppers and add it in as it's cooking or whatever. No big deal. So these are pretty pliable and bendable, so I'm going to actually put them on a wire rack and just let them dry off and cool off flat. They're probably going to harden a little bit. No big deal though. I would rather have them nice and flat, and I'm putting them on a wire rack so that way it doesn't stick to paper towel or anything, just in case. Like I've said, I've never done this before, so I'm just trying to take precautions because I don't want to screw this up and have to try and do this all over again, because I am now just past the 38-week mark, so I don't have a lot of time to be trying to make more meals. One thing, I'm so bad at measuring pasta, but one thing, this is like a little kid bowl, and I found that filling this 3 times and dumping the pasta in, depending on what pasta you're using, 2 times with macaroni, 3 times with something as big as penne, and it usually gives you enough to feed a family of 2 adults and 3 little kids, not teenagers and boys, because sometimes girls have less of an appetite. Not saying anything, I just know, obviously growing up with a brother, that he always ate more than me. So with having 3 boys under 8, 2 of these for macaroni, 3 of these for penne, usually made enough pasta for 1 meal. I am going to boil the penne separately for each one and have it cool in separate dishes, just so I have it all separated. So that's what just over 6 little bowlfuls filled up. How big is this? A 4.5 quart bowl. So almost 4.5 quarts of noodles. And then, like I said, I will separate them half and half. Just, I don't think that this whole thing is going to cook that many noodles, first of all. And second of all, they'll cool down faster being in 2 different bowls. I have read if you salt your boiling pasta, if you put salt in it, it stops it from sticking. So I do that now. So while I'm filling up the water for the last one, I am going to throw a little bit of olive oil onto the pasta just so it doesn't completely stick together. I know that might be like counterproductive of getting the pasta sauce to stick to the noodles, But like I said, I don't want it to just stick together into a clump and make it really hard and have to tear the noodles apart to get it into a nice, like to put it into the tray and stuff like that. So. And then all I'm doing to cool the pasta sauce down is just giving it an occasional stir, and I'll make sure it's off, like it's off the hot element. But I put it to the back, and then once everything cools down on the stove, I'll give it like another half hour on that and just make sure that it's relatively cool when I'm putting everything together. It's also lunchtime, so I'm going to make the kids some Kraft dinner. Also, I'm going to spray the pans with like a Pam spray before I assemble everything, just to make sure nothing just sticks to everything. And then I'm going to start slowly assembling the lasagna so that I can slowly start assembling the pasta bake, because I don't want the noodles to dry out. And I think honestly the pasta sauce has cooled down quite a bit in a little bit, and if I basically just keep creating everything in layers, it'll cool down as it goes into the pan in layers. I want to make sure I have enough pasta sauce for the lasagna, because I don't care if one of the pasta bakes has just straight sauce with no meat, but I want to make sure I get enough sauce into that lasagna, and then for at least one pasta bake. So I also just wanted to show you how I laid the lasagna noodles out to cool down and to be flat. So these are just wire racks underneath that I usually cool the bread on, and these are cold now. So Alright, so I realized the camera was off, but I used most of the ricotta in the second layer. So I did pasta sauce on the bottom just to cover the tray, 4 noodles, a layer of ricotta, 4 noodles, and then there's a little bit of pasta sauce on top. Not much would fit on top because they are the more shallower dish. They're not very deep, but that's fine. And so I'm just gonna let this cool down for probably another hour 15 minutes, and then around, that'll be about 3 o'clock, I will put some tin foil over top of it and put it in the freezer. So after I added the meat sauce to the penne, it's really thick. So I'm gonna actually, because I have some of that left, I'm gonna mix it in. See, it's not really mixing well, and I have a feeling that if it's too thick before it goes into the oven, it's gonna stick. So I'm gonna make sure that there's a lot of sauce in there, just so it doesn't stick. So that's the penne bake. I decided to use the rest of the ricotta and just shove it on top of the pasta in globs just to not waste it. I have had something like that before. It's pretty good. So, and then I'm just going to leave that again till about 3, let it cool off. And once the pasta is done in the pot here in a couple of minutes, I will mix the last one. Since this is the last one, I just threw it all into one pot, and I'm going to add the rest of the sauce into it. And especially since Joseph just threw his craft dinner onto the floor, somebody is going to eat some of this now. And Dad's probably super excited about it. So I'm just going to spray the pan, shove it into the pan, and then let them all cool down. And that is the last one. I don't have any more ricotta to put on it, but I am going to shred up a bunch of cheese and put it into a Tupperware container, so that way whoever's making it can throw it in the oven and I read on the internet that when you're thawing these out, you leave them in the fridge overnight. Take them out about a half hour before you want to cook them. Just leave them on the counter to get a little bit warmer. Leave the foil on, turn your oven to 350 or 375, and then bake it for, it says about an hour, but basically until it's all warmed up. Take the foil off, and then you can continue baking after it. That's when I would add all of the cheese and get it nice and melted. I usually throw it onto a broil right at the end to get it nice and bubbly and ooey and gooey. So that is 1 lasagna, 2 pasta bakes. That was 2 things of ground beef. I will put in the description how much of everything I kind of use, just so it's a general guideline. And then I will put the reheating instructions in the description, so that way if anyone is following this video and wants to know how to heat it up, you'll know. Have a good day. So these are the 3 pasta bakes we made, and I double checked on Google, and it's $3.75 for 50 minutes. And then you can put your cheese on and bake for another 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to cover them with aluminum foil, write the thawing instructions and cooking instructions on the aluminum foil, and throw them in the freezer.
We did a good job.
Yes, we did.
We.